Okay, so my name is Jordan Carr, and I run a shop in Kansas City, Missouri called Oddities Prints. We've been around as a screen printing, risograph, and a little bit of letterpress. I think we're in our seventh year right now. Before that, I wasn't doing very much riso. Riso was pretty new to me at that point in time. But before that, I has worked as a screen printer in random shops and basements and studios and living rooms just for ages, printing for like bands and artists and friends and musicians and making flyers and record covers and all of the stuff associated with like being like a touring musician. And yeah, about 7 years ago, everything kind of came together to start the shop as like an actual for hire business. And we got risos in within the first year and just kind of learned as we went. Early on, like I made a whole book, a riso printed book with a collaborator of mine on a riso that she got from a thrift store for $11. And we had no idea how it worked. And it was just a huge learning experience, but I was pretty hooked on I was just hooked on it from that point in time. Yeah, man, whether it's a riso or like a letterpress, they're either like practically free or just way too expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that was like the first time you learned about the risograph was with your friend, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like my wife is a printmaker and tattooer, and she at school, I remember when she was in college, she was like writing me and being like, yo, you should look into riso. I think it's like kind of exactly for the type of printmaker you are. And I just had no idea. I was like Googling like what it even is on the internet, and it didn't make any sense. It's like, how is the ink on the inside of the screens is like fake, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, once I got my hands on one, I was like, oh shit, okay, there's like opportunity here.
It sounds like you have like a really well-rounded background in like making tour posters and everything, and then switching over to riso. Like, what do you like most about working with riso? Do you work mostly with riso now?
I think on like a quantity basis, it's about 50-50 risograph and traditional screen printing.
Right.
We print a ton of like shirts. We have like a whole t-shirt printing auto press. We print a lot of like flat stock screen printing, but we're also just always running the risos. And I think what I like best is like pretty much the original concepts that drew me in, which is its attainability and its accessibility. As like an art printmaker, riso is like exceptionally affordable. It's so cheap that you can like take risks and experiment, because as I'm sure you know, like anything that spits out of the riso looks cool. It might not look like what you wanted. It might be a total piece of garbage, but it's a piece of garbage that you're probably going to put on your wall because it looks awesome. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, like hiring like a print shop, like just to go to the extremes, like just people, you cannot afford to hire somebody to make like stone litho prints of your work, right? Unattainable, especially for younger artists. And like, as you go down, it's like, well, even letterpress is like, well, letterpress is pretty specific, but it's also like pretty expensive too. And then like flat stock screen printing, if you just want to edition your work, like it gets a little more manageable, but there's still so much time and like craft that goes into doing that really well. And I think the riso being really fast and really cheap to operate means that like it can be cheap for artists. Like we can, like as an art printing shop, I feel like we can get what we need while charging like pretty little. So like if you're a young starting out artist or just a general artist, because like the art world is insane, like you can like spend a little amount of like money to maybe try out like a zine or a book or just a single artist edition and make your money back like pretty quickly, make some money pretty easily, all while like kind of catering to like the same type of like young artists or like just people who are like creative and into like cool art. Like I can afford to buy a riso art edition by anybody because it's going to sell between like 10 and 30 bucks maybe. And I can just keep getting them and putting them on my wall. And if I have to be like, okay, I want to get like a litho print from somebody, then I'm getting one every like 2 or 3 years because they're so expensive.
Yeah, for sure. Are there, and you kind of touched on this too about the accessibility, but is there any comments or pieces of wisdom that you'd like to give our viewers / first time users of the risograph?
It's screen printing. So if you know anything about screen printing, just do that. Like don't be intimidated by file setup because you're just putting one color of ink down at a time. And know that the riso is not going to do that great of a job. Like it's going to look perfect, but it's not going to, it's, you know, you guys know, like it'll be like within like a millimeter or two of where it should be in registration. So like you just make something cool and the riso will make it cool, really cool and really special, like pretty unreplicatable, if that's the word. Like just nothing looks like it. Whether I'm in the storefront right now, so like whether or not you guys or anybody is trying to make something, let's find like a really basic, like whether you're doing just kind of a basic like black with like flow pink, right? These like are just two like image areas that don't even touch. It's gonna look sick. It's gonna look awesome. Or if you're trying to just like go ham with like a full like studio lit actual still life photograph being translated as like, I think this is a 4-color riso print, go for it. All of the misprints look awesome. The world is your oyster. If you want to like dive in and just like make it look as cool and accurate as possible, you can. But for me, I think like for people just starting out, I think a lot of printmaking can be really intimidating. And I think the riso should be just, if nothing else, it should be like a reason to like scrape away the intimidation. Because everything you put through it looks cool. It doesn't matter.
So on the same kind of like lighter note, what do you have like a favorite like color or color combo in terms of like?
Well, pinks and blues for sure together always look awesome. Wow, yeah, I can give you kind of an in-depth answer if you want. Like fluorescent pink, because whenever we do like that photo I just showed you, whenever we do some type of like simulated process, or if we're trying to like replicate a full color image, and if you use fluorescent pink as magenta, everything is just gonna like, it doesn't make everything look fluorescent. It just kind of makes everything pop. Like it just jumps off the page enough. It's like your best friend. I wish we had fluorescent yellow too, although I think that would get a little psychotic. Cool, but not for everything. Yeah. The metallic gold I think is nice because it's opacity. It's one of the few colors you can print on black paper. Even riso white is a little thin, but the metallic colors are just like super opaque and they look just great. Other than that, if we're to go by pure color, shoot. Oh man,
it's the hardest question of them all, honestly.
I know. I'll just go with my gut right now. It's just saying cornflower. It's just like a beautiful, mostly white, light blue.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just like color, like inks and colors where like they are a bold color, but you can tell that they're like 80% white.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Not the best for layering, but like I think that there's a little bit of magic in like how solid they are.
for sure. That was like a great answer to that like simple question. Thank you so much. Where can we find you on the internet?
Our website is odditiesprints.com, and there's like a full web store because we, in addition to doing like for hire riso printing, we have like a whole wing of the shop that's like Oddities Prints Editions. And there's just like work that we have curated like available to get, screen printing and risograph. And then there's also just like under the services page, there's a pretty thorough riso printing resource. There's a lot of like guides on like how to set up a file, where roller marks are going to be, so where to put dense areas of your image and where to not put dense image areas if you care about that. But nuggets, like the fact that you can use just a pencil eraser to get rid of roller marks, which is like a little special thing that I never thought of until somebody was like, wait a second, can I just And then on Instagram, it's pretty much the same thing. I think it's oddities_prints. There's probably not another one out there. Yeah,
Nice. Thank you so much.
for sure.
And would you be willing to just show us a little bit around your studio with?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Outside. A real place, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then up front, this is like a little storefront area where people can come pick up orders. It used to be a lot bigger until COVID, and now I'm like, I don't want a bunch of people in here.
Yeah.
So just stuff kind of for sale, really mostly like for photography and stuff, because again, we're just not having a lot of people come in and chill. A couple old letterpresses, which is really fun, honestly. Like this letterpress is over 100 years old, and we use it to like die cut stuff that we print on the riso, which is like crazy. They're like made like 90 years apart from one another.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So riso number 1 in the front of the shop. This has become our daily driver. Some drums. I think we're running 14 different drums. Their drums are everywhere. This is like the whole kind of outlook. Over on the right, there's another old letterpress, flat stock screen printing press. That's the big one. One of my favorite tools, paper drill. This is like a cylinder screen printing press because we print a lot of like Zodiac candles. Paper zone, flat file zone. My favorite machine, favorite for real, is the paper cutter. Because we used to have like a one-armed, like the big version of that where you just hang on a huge lever. And it's awesome, but it's also awful. Here's another riso. Same as the one up front. Those are both 2-color machines, the MZ790. What do we got in there? Cornflower, my guy. Cornflower and bright red. Yeah. The 2-color machines are badass. I love them. It just makes everything twice as fast. Here's another one. RZ. This is like, I think the only, maybe there's another one. This is like the like 11x17 machine that's compatible. It uses the same drums as this, except for black. Sadly, it has to have its own special black drum. Our little office zone. These lockers are just filled with ink, which is a lovely sight. Just tubes and tubes. Oh, copper. Copper's a good one. Copper's great because like it's hard to make a skin tone with just regular old colors, you know?
Yeah.
There's a whole setup down there. There's like a basement around that corner that has all of our screen printing, like textile stuff. And this is just a big dark room, which we don't really use for the riso, but it's here. Big screen printing prep zone. Big guys, big 4-foot screens. That's kind of it. It's kind of a tiny space, actually. There's not a lot of room for humans.
Well, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
I wish we could be there.
Yeah, come take a visit if you're ever through Kansas City, for real. We do a lot of shop visits and such.
Totally. Well, sweet. I think
Oh,
that was amazing. Thank you so much
Cool.
for taking the time out of your day to talk with us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could go forever.
Yeah. Sweet.
Cool.